Okay, so Boom Learning is something that I kind of used a lot in the spring because it's very, very interactive and it's great for all ages. So whether you're in pre-K up until, you know, I'm not sure about the high school. I mean, you would have to look for Boom Learning cards or activities that are geared towards those students. But the nice thing about this was that it was free at the time, and you know, they allowed us to put as many kids as we wanted into our Boom Learning account. I don't know if that's going to be the case for September, but even if they don't allow it to be free, you can still use Boom Learning in different ways. You just won't be able to get certain data if it's not free. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to share my screen. So today we're going to be doing Boom Learning, and I'll tell you what it is. So I've been having a lot of fun with creating my own slides, as you can tell. I've been trying to make them a little bit interactive for you guys. So you have the opportunity to make your slides as interactive as you would like whenever presenting material to your students. So what is Boom Learning? So for those of you that don't know what Boom Learning is, it's a great, amazing tool for the classroom. Maybe you haven't learned or heard about Boom cards, and they're basically digital task cards, and I really, really love them, right? I had a great time using them last year. The kids loved it. It was not that like boring activity. It was very interactive. So I used it with my middle schoolers, so 8th and 7th grade, and they really enjoy the interactive lessons. And the nice thing about it is that you can find activities that are geared towards your students, right? Especially like the ELLs, even though some of the cards are in English, you can find cards or activities for the students to do that are at a lower level so that they're able to read in English, especially if they're still trying to grasp the language. It's nice to be able to find different activities that can be modified depending on the needs of your students.
Sylvia, could you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's just I had to go from one computer to another because I had some issues. Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to make sure you could hear me, and I'm just going to shut off now and mute myself to listen to you.
So, but basically, this is a great platform for you to use at any age, because even with preschoolers, if you have tablets in the building and they're allowing us to download the app for Boom Learning, or whether you are at home, you can download the app and the kids can play the activity. So that's the nice thing about it. It can be accessed from multiple devices and not just a computer. So the benefits of using Boom Learning cards is that it really allows for easy differentiation for your students. And that's what I love about it, is because I was able to differentiate an activity depending on the tiers of my students. You can assign different decks to different students, or you can create a custom play for your students and really pick how many cards you want the students to do in an activity. And I'll show you what I mean. The nice thing about this too is that it gives them immediate feedback and it's self-correcting. So if a student gets the answer wrong, they automatically get a prompt to tell them they got it wrong, and they need to work on it even more, right? And then students will be prompted to choose again if they chose an incorrect answer. And the nice thing about it is that from your dashboard, when you go and check out what the students are doing, you will see their scores. So there's really don't have to prep for anything as far as pushing out activities. Like, you have to look for the activity, but really, like, you don't have to prep anything and you don't have to grade it. It will grade it for you. It's also very flexible. they can be done independently. You can do it with the whole class if you're doing it through WebEx or in small groups. And how you would do it with, through WebEx is that you would allow students to share your screen. You would give students the right to participate, and then you can actually play the game with them. So that's another way. If we don't get the full access come September, then that's another way to use Boom Learning to make it interactive. And they're very fun. They're engaging, and students kind of enjoyed just doing something different and learning without having to listen to me talk or doing something boring, right? An activity where they're required to write something and just they don't like it. So it's interactive. There's pictures, and it's so much fun for them to do it. So all you really need for to do Boom is technology. So you can have a computer, a tablet, an iPad, a phone. You can actually project this onto your whiteboard, interactive whiteboard. So if you're in the building, you can do Boom Learning with your class. Now, this is going to be challenging because if the students can't come up out of their seats, they might just have to tell you the answer and you'll have to pick it for them. So that would be the challenging part of them coming up to the whiteboard. Obviously, internet access and a Boom account to be able to do this. So what does it cost to you? So there's plenty of free plans with Boom Learning. And then there's the paid plans that you can pay for, which are also affordable. If you are like, I really want to do this, I would like the added benefit of having the options of the paid part, then you can use it towards your discretionary funds if you really wanted to. But I am hoping that a lot of these platforms will continue to offer all of their stuff for free come September, especially if the majority of us will be doing distance learning, or a lot of the state. I mean, because at least in the town that I live in, students will only be going to school 2 days a week, and the rest they're home for the other 3 days. So literally if we choose for them to go to school, they'll only be there 2 days, at least here in Union. Elizabeth has the same plan. Some districts have decided to go all virtual to start with. I have not heard anything about Newark. I don't know if any of you have, but I'm hoping that because we still will be doing a lot of virtual stuff, that these places will really step up like they did during the spring to help us out. But this is something that you can look at, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But it is really a great resource for you to use, even if you don't use the parts of it where you have to pay. So what you would need to do to get started. So I have linked the Boom Learning where you would go to sign up. So once you with this presentation, you can come back to the slides and actually click the link and go to Boom Learning. So you would go to Boom Learning, you would click on the green sign up button. And again, I totally recommend that you join with your Google account, because it helps you not to have to remember another username or password. And then once you've created your username and password, you can click on the library tab. So you'll see a tab that looks like this, and you would just click on library. And then you will scroll down to the bottom and click on the green show me free stuff button. And there's a lot of free Boom Learning cards that you can actually access for free. Even on Teachers Pay Teachers, there have been tons of teachers that have actually pushed out free Boom Learning card activities. I did a lot of escape room activities with my students because they were older, and some of them were free. Some of them I had to pay $1 here or there, but again, I was going to use it towards my discretionary fund, so I was okay with it. But there is a ton of free stuff that you can search for, or you can create your own. So this is where you would go. So this is where it would give you options of the different decks that you can get, right? There's art decks, there's math, social studies, world language, and then you would pick the grades. So they have decks going up to 12th grade. So it's really like, you know, you have to gauge where your students are as far as their level of English, and then kind of go from there. So once you do that, you click on the deck of cards that you would like to use, and then click on the Add to Library green button. So don't forget, you can preview the first 4 cards of any deck to make sure that you actually like that deck to assign to the students. I would always preview what the deck looks like before I assign it, just to make sure that you don't want to delete any slides or hide any of the cards from the students playing. Maybe there's too many cards and you want to eliminate some. You can do that as well. So the next thing that you need to do is to click to create your classes. You can click here where it says classes right next to the library. And here, this is where you can have 2 options. You can either sync it to your Google Classroom, or you can create your own class by entering students individually. I liked using it when I linked it to my Google Classroom, because it automatically merged all of my students and I didn't have to input any of their names one by one. So whenever my students logged on to do a Boom Learning activity, they would just use their NPS email, and I would give them all the same password so that nobody had to create their own. So you can create, though, your own class if you, want to. It's totally up to you. So if you do want to create your classes and not link them to Google Classroom, then you would click on the blue New Classroom button at the bottom, and then it will automatically create a name based on what you've entered in your profile. So if you're Mrs. Smith, then it would say Mrs. Smith's class. And then you can do, you can either change it to first period, algebra, or whatever it is that you want to change it to. You can have multiple classes in there, especially if you teach more than one class or one section from, different sections. Then you can have even one for math, one for science. So it's totally up to you, right? And then you can also change username and password for your class if you wanted to. So here it'll give you options as to whether you want to add students, change their passwords, do reports. So it'll give you all of those options. To add students to your classroom, like I said, you can link it to Google Classroom, which is what I prefer because it's easier to it really merges everybody. Or you can add students to your class individually. So even speech therapists, right? Teachers that teach speech, there are a ton, I kid you not, of speech activities for students to do with Boom Learning. There are speech therapists that have designed activities for articulation, for getting students to really speak. So it's a nice way to get students to express themselves and practice their language with a speech therapist in an interactive way. So it's really broadened up, more to than just academics in school. So even people outside of the classroom can use Boom Learning to really address the needs of any student. So that's what I really like about it, is that it's so interactive and it really has fun things for the students to try.
If a student is added to your classroom, you put them in Google Classroom, will BoomDeck automatically update?
Yes.
Okay.
So you would just resync it, like there's a button to resync it. And if a student is added, I would just resync. But I'll show you what my Boom Learning account looks like so you can see. And then if you decide to link it to your Google Classroom, their username, like I said, will be their MPS email. And then what I did is I set the same password for every student so that when I posted the assignment, and I'll show you what it looked like when I posted it, I said, this is your password to actually log on. And you only need a password if you are wanting scores from the students. And I'm going to show you the different methods of using Boom Learning. The next step would be to assign the decks to the students. So this is very easy to do. You would go to your library, find the deck that you want the students to complete. And then there's a button, a blue button that says action by the deck, and it will give you several options to choose from. So the only thing that will take you a long time to do, let's say if you want to assign a specific deck to certain students, then you need to go and do it individually. So you can assign a deck to the whole class at one time, but if you want to assign a specific deck to specific students, then you need to go to the students individually and assign it. And I'll show you what that looks like when I show you my account. So these are the different ways you can use Boom Learning, right? So you can assign, and if you do assign the deck, then what this does is that you can either assign it to the class or multiple classes or individual students. So like I said, if you want to assign it to individual students, then you need to go to the individual students one by one. That is the only tedious part, and there's really no way around it. You really have to go to the individual students. If you want to assign a deck to the whole class, then you would just assign the deck to the whole class or multiple classes all at once. That's the easy part. It's when you start to differentiate the decks, then that's when it take you more time because you'll have to go to the individual students. So if you choose the assign option, this is where it will record the student's scores, right? But we need to actually have an account for that. The account does allow you to have up to 5 students for free. I'm hoping again that it will allow us to have everything for free come September. Then you have the fast pin option. And this is the option if you want students to just practice and don't want them to record their scores. So basically, it will give you a link that students can use without needing to log in. And then once the students have this link, they click on the fast play option at the top and type in the pin to start, and they can play the decks as much as they want. They really don't need an account. They don't need a username. All they need is the pin that you give them and the link, and they'll be able to play. The only thing with this is that you won't get a score or a report as to how the child did. Then you have the hyperplay link, and this gives you a link that will prompt students to log in, and then the play will begin. So you would grab this link if you want to post it to Google Classroom, right? But what I did when I posted it to Google Classroom is that I would do the assign, and then I would just give the students directions on how to log in. And I'll show you what I mean by that, because I wanted to record their scores, because I used the activities as some of them as a grade. You can print them. So if you want a hard copy of the cards, you can print them. You can hide cards. So let's say you choose a deck of cards and there's like 20 cards on there. So you would use this option if there's cards in the deck you don't want students to see. So this is a great option if the deck is too long, or if there are cards that aren't quite what you were looking for and you don't want to the students to do those cards, then you can go. That's why I recommend definitely going through the activities and really seeing whether the cards you want to use all of them. So Maria Miller said, yeah, we use them as speech activity sessions. Yes, like I really recommend it. I mean, I truly personally loved Boom Learning just because it was very, very interactive, especially for our little students, you know, the pre-K to 2 world. It's so interactive and engaging because there's nice, vibrant colors. There's different animations on there, you know, and it's the students actually get to interact with the activity. So it is truly very fun for them. So it's something that you can explore and see what, you know, you can find, especially like for kindergarten, there's beginning sound cards and find, you know, the short vowel, long vowel sounds for first grade cards. So there's really a ton of you know, decks that you can look for where you can really engage the students into doing something fun. And maybe it might not be a grade per se, but it could be used as something extra for extra practice whenever you're doing your lessons. And then you also have the custom play settings. And with these settings, this is where you can adjust the number of cards that your students see. So this option, however, does not work if you're doing fast pins. So if you're just sending out the link for the kids to enjoy the Boom cards for fun, you can't actually do the custom settings. So in order to do that, you kind of have to have, the students have to have their account and be logged in. So these are like the different options of how to use the Boom Learning cards and decks. So how to assign decks using the class tab. So this is what your Boom Learning account will look like. This will be the top. This is where your classes are, right? Here, it'll name your classes, right? You can have more than one. Here is where you would find your assignments, and this is where you find any reports for any of the assignments that you give to students. And this is where you would see your students. So if I click on this class, then I will see students for this class only. If I want to add another classroom, then I can. I would just click this option here. And then it gives you the option to import from a Google Classroom. So it's, you know, totally up to you how you would like to, you know, do this. And then you have the store up here. This is where you can search for Boom Learning cards on the actual Boom Learning site as well. So here, I wanted to show you is like your library. So whenever you upload any Boom cards to your library, this is where you would go to see what decks are in your library. And then here, you will get the options of how you want to what do you want to do with the deck? Do you want to sign it? Do you want a fast pin, hyperlink it? Do you want to print it? Do you want to hide cards, custom play, or show report? So whenever you click on the action button, this is where it will give you the options of what you would like to do. So students do not have to complete all the cards. It's totally up to you. Some of the decks are short, so you'll want the students to complete them. When I did the escape room decks with my students, there was only about 6 cards, and I couldn't delete any of them because in order to complete it, then you would need to actually do all of the cards to figure out the answer to the escape room. I think there's a question. Ms. Garcia, did you have a question?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Good morning. I was just trying to say hello.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Okay.
So,
Question, Sylvia.
yes, go ahead.
When you select the action, could you select multiple settings? When you please go back to the previous slide.
Yes.
Okay. Could I be able to do the custom setting, the custom place setting, assigned and select report all at the same time, or it have to?
No, one action at a time. Yeah.
Okay, thank
It
you.
does, no problem. It doesn't allow you to do more than one action at a time. It's the same thing like, let's say when I went to assign a deck, when I would differentiate my decks with my students because I had a lot of tier 1 students. So some of them would not be able to do that deck, right? So what I did was I would find decks that had similar objectives and similar skills. And then I would pick the easier deck for my tier 1 students and the one that was a little bit harder for my tier 3s. I had very little tier 4 students, so the majority were tier 1s and 2s. So I really had to find decks that were a little bit easier, especially because a lot of them didn't even have the language yet. So some of the decks that I assigned to the students were even on building sounds in English because they had just come to the country and didn't even know their sounds yet. So I found even kindergarten decks for the kids that were tier 1s because they didn't know their alphabet. So you can find any deck that you want, even though you're teaching a 7th grader, but if they're tier 1 and they don't even know a word of English, we need to start with like basics. And sometimes we don't have all the time that we would really like to have to really spend on teaching them those basic skills. So this is a nice way for them to practice, and we don't have to grade it, but it's great for them to practice at home or even in the classroom during small groups. I don't know how school will be like, but in an independent activity for them to do on their own, and it will actually be helpful for them to practice this. And there's a ton of alphabet and sounds boom cards, decks that you can find even for free. So like I said, it depends on how you want to send out your decks to your students. So you would do the custom place settings for them to be able to remove any cards or pick a lower number of cards for the students to do. So what I loved about it is that it checks their work, and I'll show you what I mean by that. For the most part, all of the cards are self-checking. Some cards will give them immediate feedback once the student gives his or her answer. And other decks, like the escape room decks, will require students to hit submit before moving to the next card. So it's like any escape room that we do on our own. Before we go to the next room, we have to solve the mystery in the room that we're in before we are able to move on. Same thing with Boom. So what is the difference between a deck and a card? And this is how I pictured it in my mind. So in order for me to understand the difference between what was a card and a deck, I kind of pictured playing cards, right? So in my head, I thought of a deck as playing cards. And then the entire group of cards that we have is the deck. And each individual card is a card. So that's how I was able to tell the difference between what is a deck and what is the card. So the deck in your Boom learning is all of the cards put together, and then each individual card that the students play is called the card. So it works the same with Boom. So I kind of made that connection for myself so I can know the difference between what was the deck and a card. So where can you find them? I mentioned it at the beginning that you can find them on the Boom Learning site or on Teachers Pay Teachers. So if you decide to purchase it from Teachers Pay Teachers or download the free Boom Learning cards, you would purchase them, add them to your cart and download them, right? And then there's like usually a PDF file that you have to download. And if you are already logged on to your Boom Learning account, it will automatically, once you click download, it will automatically put your deck into your Boom Learning account. It will ask you if this is your account when you click to download from the PDF. And if it is, then you just click yes, okay, and it will automatically put it in your library. If you do any decks from the actual Boom Learning site, then they automatically are added to your library. You don't have to actually put them there. And then that is the end of my presentation. So now I wanted to show you. So I had some fun creating things. As you can tell, I've been being very creative with my pictures and my slides. So I don't know if you saw my post from yesterday where I taught you how to remove the background from your images whenever you find images that still are not transparent. I hope everybody saw that post as well. So let me take you to my Boom Learning account. Okay. And let me show you what it looks like. Okay, so I'm already signed in, but whenever I pushed it out to the students, I would just give them this link, and then the students would click on here where they would say student sign in, right? Now it's as a teacher, but I would have to log out, and then they would put their NPS email and the password that I gave them. Let me go back to the menu. Okay, so here's my library, right? Here is where I have all of the decks that I have here. So there's stuff on for science, like Earth Day. I did stuff on verbs when we were doing verbs and pronouns, sentences. A lot of the children had a hard time telling the difference between what sentences, how sentences begin with, especially if they were new to the country. And a lot of the times they didn't know, they didn't write a capital letter to begin their sentence. So I had them practicing that. So when I go in here, like I would always preview, right? And this one actually has a sound that it makes if they got it wrong, right? So on the teacher's side, this is where I preview to see if I like anything. If I don't like something, I can just click hide the card and it will hide it. And then I preview. So this deck actually has 30 cards. So if you don't want the students to do so many, then you can just, you see, you can actually do an overview and you can delete some of the cards that you want. Let me show you what the reports look like.
Excuse me, Sylvia,
Mhm.
once you, let's say you delete a card or cards for a particular class, let's say your 9 o'clock a.m. class,
Mhm.
and then, but you want to use those cards for your 11 o'clock a.m. class, can you get those cards back?
Yeah, you can put it back. Mhm.
Okay.
So like here are my classes, right? So I had 3 different sections in my groups that I taught. So like, for example, this class here, these were some of the students that I, actually had. And because I picked them to use their NPS, so they would log in with their NPS account, and then I set a password for them. If, for example, I get new students into my Google Classroom, I would just click this button here, add re-import students, and it will automatically refresh the number of students that are there, okay? And then here, this is where I would go to reset the password for everybody. For the little guys, you can actually pick to use picture passwords for your classroom instead. So what they did with my son, like they picked like an animal for them to use. So all they would have to do whenever they logged in was click the animal that would belong to their class, as opposed to having to remember an actual word to write on. So this is something that if they're doing it from a tablet at home or an iPad, they can just download the app, which is free. And eventually the kids will know how to even log on themselves, or they can stay signed on without having to log off. So let's say I want to go to the report to see what the students did. So let's say I pick the deck that I want to do the report on, and then it will tell me, right, how much time the students spent on it, what percentage they got correctly. And if I go into the actual student, right, and I pick on their deck, it will show me this report like this. And how long, it'll tell you even how many seconds they spent on each of the questions. So this is nice way for you to conference with the student, or to conference with the parent about some of the struggles that they're going or having with a particular skill. So that's the nice thing about it. And I liked it because, you know, I had the whole report all at one time, right? As to how the students did. Like sometimes students would get, like this child right here got a 38, and I was like, Juan, can you please redo it again? I know you only spent 4 minutes on this activity. You need to go back and, you know, try it again. So students can replay the activity. Like you see, like this child did it the first, you know, one time and it got a 15, and then redid it and got a 38. So they can replay the cards as many times as they want. Because then you do get a report to tell you how many times the students actually played the decks. So let's see. So if I assign it to everybody, it will show here. So let's say I go into my library, right? And I want to assign this to kids. Right here, it'll show me all my classes, right? And if I want to assign it to these 3 classes, and everybody in that class is going to get this deck, then I click here, and everybody has that deck, right? So when you go up here to your classes, if I pick this class and I go to assignments, they now have the assignment there. So that's the easiest way for you to push out an activity to everybody. The only thing that you cannot do, unfortunately, if I'm here in my library, right, and I want, you know, only a specific class to get something, then I can't do it from here. So what I usually did was I went to my class, right, and then I would click assign, and then I would pick the deck or decks that I would want to assign to the student. So if I want to assign a specific deck to specific students, then I need to go to the individual students and do it one by one. It doesn't, like, I have searched high and low. Like last year I did the same thing. I went on YouTube, I went on teachers that did Boom Learning cards, and nobody showed us a way to assign a deck to only 3 students at one time. It only gives you the option of everybody, or then you have to go individually, student by student.
I have a question about assignments too. Like, will this push to Google Classroom, or like what? Like, how do the students know the assignment exists?
So when I'll show you how I posted in my Google Classroom. So I made an assignment on Google Classroom for them to do, and I gave them the link to come onto Boom Cards, onto the Boom Learning site, and I gave them the steps and directions on what I wanted them to do. And I'll show you what it looks like in my Google Classroom. If you delete cards from a deck from one class, does it? No, it doesn't delete it from the library. You can give the entire deck to another class at a later time. Okay. So here's your store, right? If you want to search for certain decks, right? So here you have your free decks here. So you can search here to see You have comprehension, you have counting, rhyming words. And again, this is something free that you can do with your students just to get them, you know, like engaged in an activity. So there's a ton of free stuff like feed the farm animals, pronouns. Here is articulation. So I said there's a ton of Boom learning cards where they talk about articulation of sounds. So even for speech therapists, it's a great website for them. So that is where you can see some of the featured free stuff, where you can also do find free. And it'll show you all the free stuff that they have. So it's a matter of just like searching to see. And Teachers Pay Teachers also has a ton of free stuff as well. So let me show you what the Google Classroom looked like when I assigned a Boom deck to the students. So here is, I'll go to this class here. I'm going to go to my classwork, and this is where I listed all my ESL. So let's see. Oh, here's one right here. Let me make it bigger. So here's how, oh, this is Epic. Sorry, wrong one. Is this, oh, here it goes. Here's a Boom Learning one. So I would create an assignment for the students. I would give them the title. And then whenever I gave them the directions, I, you know, let them know exactly what it is that they were going to do in the activity. And then I gave them some instructions when I assigned the capital, the sentence one, proofreading sentences. And then I actually told them, if you're asking a question, use a question mark. If you are telling someone something, use a period. And then I told them, read each sentence carefully and choose the sentence that is written correctly. If you forgot how to log on to Boom Learning, here are the steps. So then basically I told them, click on the link, click on student sign in, and then click on sign in with Boom, type in your username. So your username is the MPS, and then type your password. And then I set everybody's password to South Street. So whenever they all they had to do was click here on this link. It's going to take me back to my teacher sign-in page, but they would click here as a student, and then they, whatever deck I assigned to them, it would show up in their, under their name. And then that was it. So I always created an assignment for the students in Google Classroom so that they would know what it is that they had to do. And then that's the only thing that they had as far as that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Sure.
In order for you to differentiate, could you do it in Boom Car, or you have to go to Google Classroom to do the differentiation?
So you kind of have to do it in both, right? So it depends. When I assigned, if I wanted everybody in the class to do it, then on Boom Learning, I assigned it to everybody. And when I posted the assignment, I also assigned it to everybody. But when there was a deck that I wanted to assign to students, like only 10 students got it. So I would pick the 10 students on the Boom Learning account. And then I only assigned it to the 10 students in my Google Classroom as well. So I did not post the assignment to the students that were not getting that specific deck. Does that make sense? So let me show you like an assignment where it was different. Let's see. Okay, so here I only assigned it to this particular one where it was about verbs. I only assigned it to 11 students. And this one, the other deck on verbs, which was harder, it was, you know, a escape room where they had to like solve the cards before they went to the next one. I assigned it to my tier 3s and 4s, so only 12 students got it. So I differentiated in both the Boom Learning account and the Google Classroom. Because if I assign the deck to everyone in Boom Learning, then everybody will have it in under their name, and then they're going to think that they also have to do that one as well. So whenever I was picking an activity that I was differentiating, I would individually pick who got what activity. Does that make sense? So, but that's basically it, as like how it's really not that hard to use Boom Learning. But basically to set up your account, you would go to boomlearning.com and then you would click to sign in. So let me see if I can sign out so I can show you. So if you are doing this for the first time, you would click teachers, right? And it has some stuff, resources here, right? And then here it's going to tell you create a free trial account, because right now there is, you have to pay for certain parts of Boom Learning. There are free stuff that you can do without needing the paid account, right? And then here, this is where you're going to say join with Google. So I already have an account, so I'm not going to click here, but that's how you would sign in. So if you don't have an account, you can just click here, join for free. Teacher. Okay.
Wait,
Yes.
I just tried to sign in, and if I sign in with my Google account, do I need to create a password or not?
No.
It just says welcome, your account has been created, and then
That's it. Mm-hmm.
okay,
So if you always sign in with Google,
right.
you don't have to worry about a username or a password. That's the great thing. That's why I really like to always use my Google stuff for a lot of the stuff that I do, because I don't have to worry about remembering all of that stuff.
Can the students do that as well? Because I saw that you were changing passwords, but if they sign in with Google, they just use their NPS account and leave it.
They can sign in with Google. I had my students always, when they click the link, they had to sign in with their username and their password. At
What
least
was their user? You mean their NPS username?
their
and password?
NPS email, yeah.
Okay.
So
But
whatever
then we couldn't change their password, right? If they're using their NPS account.
I was able to set their password.
Oh, even with that.
So when I went here, right?
Mhm.
When I put here, when I pick on the class, I click set passwords, right? And then I can reset the password to all the students in class. So I can reset it, and then I picked one generic password for everybody, and I clicked OK, like that. So
Okay.
all the students were set to a specific password. So if I wanted to use pictures, all passwords will be set to a new password, and I can pick what picture. So for my little guys, I would definitely do a picture password. It's up to you, right?
Okay.
There's also ways where you can print the roster, right? Let's say I want to print. Let me show you. Let's see. Generate. And it'll generate a report, right? And then it says use Google sign in or this, and then use use this as your password. Or they can do the QR code if they have a phone, and they'll get it right on their phone. So you can print this and send it to the parents, or email it to the parents, or post it onto Google Classroom as an individual post. And then it says here, go to the Boom Cards or download the free Boom Cards app. So they can do for the app as well.
Okay, so it looks like there's 3 different ways to sign in. So use the MPS, or
Yeah.
they can use a password, or they can use the QR.
Yep.
Oh, great. No excuses.
Yeah, that's why, like, whenever, somebody was like, well, I don't have my computer right now. And I said, you have your phone, right? Download the app. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. There's no excuse why you can't do the activity. So this is a nice thing about it, because a lot of our students do have smartphones, and they can do the activity from their smartphone without even needing a laptop or a computer or even a Chromebook, right? So there's no reason why some of the students give us excuses as to why they didn't complete these activities. Because there are really a ton of different ways that they can access it without, having the excuse of not being able to do it. But as far as like knowing more about Boom Learning Cards, that's really all you really need to know. Here is where you will find your teacher info. You can put a username if you want. You can edit your email. You can always change your password if you want. But I don't want to. I always log in with my Google account so that I don't have to remember a username or a password. But if you do want to, you have that option on there, right? Right now it's telling me I have too many students on here to upgrade. I'm hoping that this will change, but regardless, I can still use the Boom, my Boom Learning decks on here, and do it as a fast pin, and any of the students can play. So even if we can't get the reports, we can still have the kids interact with the decks at any time, right? Or we can do it through, a WebEx with the students and do the decks together. Like, I would definitely recommend, like, for our younger kids, if you're going to do any specific Boom Learning decks with them, I would do like 1 or 2 or even 3 with the students for them to become familiar as to what it is that they need to do. And then for the little ones, like even here on this deck, like this one actually had.
We'll learn about verbs. A verb is a word that shows an action.
So they could actually hear, and it would read. If they pressed on here, there was voice.
A past tense verb tells an action that happened in the past. A past tense verb usually ends in ed.
So just to give you an example of, what they have out there as far, because you might be thinking, well, the kids don't know how to read. So there are decks that already have voice embedded into them, where you can push out to the students as well, so that you don't have to worry about them, reading. But there's really a ton. I can show you on Teachers Pay Teachers. There's a ton of Boom Learning cards that are free in decks. So if you look under Boom Learning, right, there'll be a ton of them, obviously, but you can always search for free. And then it will show you, like, you have vowel sounds. There's really a ton of free. So this is for kindergarten, first and second. So if you decide to do it from Teachers Pay Teachers, what you would do is click on here, and then it's going to ask you to download. You're going to get the PDF. And then it's going to tell you all the directions, like what you need to do. Okay. How do I give access to the students to these decks, right? You have the different options. So The only thing that you need to remember is that if you send them a fast pin, the pin is only valid for 5 days. So if the students don't do the activity within 5 days, you have to resend a new link with a new fast pin. And then it says, and then it'll tell you what you need to do to download it. So it says, click the image to add the freebie to your Broom library. And then I click on it. And then it's going to take me to my account because I'm already signed in. And then it says, confirm this is you. And this is me. So I'm going to say, yes, that's me. And then it's going to automatically put it here on my deck, my library. And that's all you have to do if you decide to purchase or get any of the decks from Teachers Pay Teachers. So as you can see, let me go back. Like there's really a ton, like look over here for, you know, kindergarten. It has sounds, right? And this will actually play the sound or words depending on it. So there's really a ton addition that you can do for your students. Even if it's just for practice, it's really, you know, nice and fun. Multiplication. So these are all free. So it's just a matter of looking for decks that you think would be appropriate for your students, like counting to 5, great for kindergarten, right? So really like take a look. There's like 5 pages of free decks that you can get. Right? It's here for speech articulation, right? So it's really a matter of you going through your different digital platforms and seeing which one you would like to do. But it's definitely something that I recommend you signing up for because it is very interactive for the students, and I think they would really love to do it, even if it's just for extra practice. But that's
Sylvia, can I ask a question, please?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. To go back where you were talking about the joining while you were doing your presentation, I was trying, signing in to the Boom Learning. And my only question, because I'm a resource teacher, should I give you the option, after you click on to your teacher, they give you an option, and I just heard you say something about the fast pen, that it only lasts with the kids for 5 days. Being that I don't know my kids yet, should I sign up for the rich experience with classes to configure accounts for each student? Because I will have access to the students.
So for right now, like you can just create your account without adding your students. So you can, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude. So here I'm looking at it. It says for quickest play, go to the library and create a fast pen, or students use the fast pen and whatever they give you the URL, or for the richest experience, use classes to configure accounts. So which one should I click on?
So right now you don't have any students, so you can't, you don't have to do anything right now. But once you do have the students, then you want to be able to pick the other option, not the fast pin option. The fast
But
pin
it doesn't let me get past it, so that means I can't follow through right now today.
Right, you can't follow through right now, but you should be able to add any decks to your library to start building your library.
So how do I do that without clicking?
So at the top, you have classes, and then you have library. You see library here?
Yes, I see library.
Okay, so if you click library, right now you're not going to have anything there because you don't have any decks that you have uploaded to your account. So I just showed you like you can actually go to the store if you want to upload any of the free ones that are there. So I would click store, and then I click find free. Let me just.
I click store, and you say find free. I don't see.
Where is find free?
I see that. I see, and it's up to the top. It says store point 0.
And it
Yeah.
says find free in green. It's a little green box
It's a
to the
little green
right.
button. To the right.
Okay.
Click
Okay.
on that.
You click on that.
Uh-huh.
And then look for a deck that you think you would be able to use. So I'm just going to pick a random one. Right here, this is about the letter A. So I'm going to click that one. And then it's going to give me 3 options: add to wish list, add to cart, or add to library. And I'm going to
Okay,
say,
now hold it for one moment before you go any further.
okay.
All right, so I'm just assuming, just for the sake of argument,
Mhm.
I'm going to just click just a deck, just for now.
Yeah, I mean, you can always go back and delete the deck from your library.
Okay, then, so I'm just going to click on the deck, all right? So I
Yeah.
can just, get the experience.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now once I clicked it on that deck, all right, so it says what? Add it to the library, add it to the cart, or add it to
Add
the
to
wish
wish
list.
list.
You're going to click on add to library
Okay.
Add to the library,
and then
and
click,
then it says
Okay.
okay.
click OK.
Okay,
Library is updated. Click OK.
okay. So
So
now
if you
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Now, once I've done that, I've clicked on that. I want to see where it is. Where am I going to go to find it?
So if you are looking at my screen, so this is
Let me
hard.
look at your screen for a moment. Go
Right.
ahead.
So this is very difficult if you're trying to do it and not looking at what I'm doing. So it makes
You're
it
right.
difficult for you to see what I'm doing. So if you look at what I'm doing right here as I'm sharing my screen, if you click on library, the deck that you have just added to it should appear there. So if you're looking at my screen, the one that I added is actually here. This is the one that I added. All about the letter A.
And if I want to delete it,
So if I want to delete it, okay, I go to here, action, I click on action and I click delete. And then that's it. And it'll delete it from your
you
library.
say action. Is it on the menu bar up there?
No, so it's right next to, are you looking at my screen?
On the program itself?
Are you looking at my screen?
Yes, I am. I see what you're saying. It's right
Okay.
there on the same
So, right
deck
now,
of card. Okay.
you're going to click the action word, and then you're
Go
going
down
to
to
click
delete.
on the word delete. Huh?
Got you.
And then that would be it. So for right now, because you don't know who your students are, my suggestion to you is just add to your library. Add decks, as many decks as you want to your library that you think would be useful. And then once we start school, go ahead.
So now, when I finish this and I'm finished working with you, I can go to my Google Classroom page, and it should be on there with the icons, or should it be on?
It will not be in your Google Classroom.
That is Google Classroom on that page where all the other things that I have. I go because I'm in the Newark School, public school, so I have to go through Google Chrome. So once I go through, the student portal, I should be able to see it.
No, it will not be on your student portal either.
Where should I go?
So what I would recommend is that you bookmark the page. So I have it bookmarked here at the top. So what I would do is I would go to this website, the boomlearning.com website, and to bookmark it, you click the 3 little dots that is next to your picture, and then you click bookmark, and then bookmark this tab, and then it's going to add it here. So this will not be, Boom Learning is not part of the NPS student portal. So if you go there, you will not find it. So you always have to go to the website.
So let me make sure I have this correctly.
Mhm.
First, I'm going to go back to boomlearning.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then the next step I'm going to do is go to and bookmark it, with the three little dots,
Right.
bookmark.
Yep.
hmm And then after I bookmark it, that's it.
That's
It's going to
it.
be on my dashboard, up on the
It's gonna be, yep, it's
menu
gonna be,
bar.
yep, on the top, like I have mine. So whenever I want to go to my Boom Learning account, I click here and it's gonna take me to my Boom Learning account.
Okay.
Sylvia,
I'm sorry, Sylvia?
Yes?
I just had a question about the library cards. Do we have an unlimited amount or is there a limited amount that we can download for those decks?
I don't think there's a limit. They haven't said that there's a limit of how many decks. I mean, I don't have that many on here. If by any chance there's too many and there's decks that you are not using, you can always remove it to add newer ones that you are using. So
Yeah, I was just wondering, using it for different, just for different subjects, if they, so there is not a limit per se, not that we have so much.
yeah, I have not encountered them coming with a limit. So again, like if it does give you a limit of how many cards, I would just start eliminating the ones that you're not using as often. I mean, because if you download it from Teachers Pay Teachers, whether it's free or whether you're paying for it, you can always download it again at a later time, even if you delete it, right?
Right, and I'm thinking of what you're recommending, trying to start downloading some of this now and just put it in folders. And as long as we have it as a placeholder, that shouldn't be an issue. We could always assign it.
Right. So like my suggestion to you is like search for decks that are free and that you can find useful for your students, right? Whether, because even in second grade, you might have students that still don't know their sounds. So maybe you find decks that are talking about letters and sounds correlation or correspondence. And, you put that in your library in case there's a kid that needs extra practice on letters and sounds. So you can even assign it just to one student. So let's say you have a student, he's new to the country, he needs letters and sounds. Here, I want you to practice, instead of doing this homework assignment today, I want you to practice your letters and sounds doing this game.
Okay, so and I like what you had mentioned about differentiation, and that's something to think about as well when considering and using the card. So thank you so much.
No problem. I think there was one more question here. Okay.
can you show the screen this process where the teacher has the option of hiding a particular card
Sure.
or eliminating, hiding a particular card or deleting a particular card in the deck?
So somebody asked, Boom Learning, you can choose specific students from a class to assign an activity. Yes. So I can, so let's say I want to assign this deck to certain students. I have to go to my class, pick the student that I want to have. So let's say I want this student to have a specific deck from this class. So I'm going to click the class that I want to assign the deck to. I'm going to pick the student. I'm going to click assign, and then I'm going to assign her with whatever decks I want her to have on here.
Could you do that with multiple students? Let's say you have 5 students that are at the same level. Could you do that there?
No, you have to do each individual student.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Unfortunately, there's no quick way of doing that. I wish there was, because I found myself having to go through all the different students that I wanted to assign specific decks to. There was no quicker way of doing it, unfortunately. I really did look everywhere, even in the spring, to see if I found an easier way to do it, and I did not. I mean, if someone comes across it, please share, because I did not find any. And any of the teachers that I follow on Instagram that use Boom Learning, they also always did it this way. Any YouTube videos that I've seen about Boom Learning have also shown it in a way to just assign it to the students individually.
Can you repeat how, can you repeat how to select individual students, please?
Sure. So basically, if I have a specific deck that I want to assign to specific students, I first need to go, if I was in my library, I need to get out of my library and I need to go to classes. I need to pick the class that I want to assign it to, and then pick the student that I want. So let's say I want this student to get a specific card. I click the drop-down menu. I'm going to click assign, and then it gives me all of the decks that I have in my library. It's going to give me all the options, and then I pick which one I want him to get. So I never assign more than one deck at a time. So I would just pick the one that I wanted him to get, and then that would be it. Let's see.
Sylvia,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I find the steps that you included in yours very helpful to the students as to how to log into Bloom.
Mhm.
Is it okay to send that steps to us, or could you just
Sure.
go back and just
So
read it quickly? I find
sure.
it very
Sure, no problem.
interesting.
So what I will do is once I'm done here, I will
Yeah.
add the steps to the Google Slides that I
Yes.
created. So like that everybody can have access to it in the slides.
Absolutely, because you have it in all of yours. Yeah, those are very helpful to the students.
So what I'll do is I'll add the steps on how the students should log on in the slides after. How do you add a zip file from Teachers Pay Teachers to Bloom? So even if Ms. Smith, even if it's a zip file, you would just oftentimes the Bloom cards are not in zip files unless they have other activities besides the Bloom Learning cards and decks. But if it's a zip, it will just give you the directions on how to automatically upload it to your Bloom library. For the most part, the Bloom decks are not in zip files because it's just decks of cards and that you have. So let me show you like another download just so that you can see. Let me see. So here's a community helpers one. This is even for pre-K. So this is great to do even for our little guys for pre-K level, right? So it's usually a PDF. So this one says a zip file. So let me show you. That's actually great. So it's gonna download. Okay, so it's opening up the zip file. Okay, and then it has all the different links. That's why it's a zip. And then because it has like the terms of use, if you like this, the credits, and then here it says click me, I am your link. So that's the one that you're gonna click on. It's gonna open.
I don't see anything. That's
We
funny. I
can't
don't.
see it.
Yeah, I can't see it.
Page is blank.
Sometimes when I
Coming in maybe.
when I try to upload something, it doesn't let me show you. Are you seeing it now?
No.
Okay,
No.
hold on, let me stop.
The screen is grayed out.
Yeah. So, sometimes when I go from one page to another, WebEx doesn't let me show you. I don't know why. Okay, so let me show you. So do you see this now?
Yes.
Okay. So this was from the zip file that I got. So hold on. Hold on. I'm gonna do this. Because it's not letting me do it. Okay, hold on. All right, So let me share the screen now, because if I show it to you, do it while you're here, you won't be able to see it. So do you see it now?
Yes, yes.
So it says, thank you for downloading the Boom Community Helper Matching Activity. And then it says, please click this link or the image below to be redirected, right? So either one. And when I click it, it's going to say, sign in, because it opened up the link on Microsoft Edge. I don't know why, instead of Google. And then I could just sign in. And it's going to ask me for my login information.
Oh,
Because it's doing it through Microsoft Edge. It opened it up in Edge and not in Google. Okay, it's taking a moment. It's taking forever. I don't know why it's taking so long. Okay. And it just stopped sharing the application. I don't know why. Something's wrong with WebEx. But basically you would download it and then open. It would take you the same way. The only reason why it's a zip file is because it has more than just the Boom cards on there. It has like the credits. It has other activities. If you like the Boom card activities, for you to download other stuff. So that's why you would see it as a zip file, but you would download it in the same way, and then it'll tell you exactly which one is the Boom cards for you to download. But and then somebody wanted to see how to hide the cards, right? Okay. Let me go to my account. Okay, so let's see. So here we go. So you're here in your class, right? So not your library. If you want to do it from the library, then you could click the library, or you could do it from your classes. If you are assigning an individual deck to individual students, you can do it in either or. So if you're in your library and I want to do custom play settings, right? This is where you would do custom play. You can say time. If you want them to just do it once, then just uncheck that. She'll answer if they surrender. You can uncheck that as well. It's up to you. Number of cards per play. So the batch size is between 5 and 200, or give none. So you pick how many you want the students to play. So that's if there's 20 cards and you only want them to play 10, this is where you would go and click, I want them to only do 10 cards, and then click OK. Right? So if you want to go here, and then if you want to hide a card, so you would go to your cards, right? And if you want to hide the card, you would just click hide card. Hidden cards are not shown to students nor visible in reports, and then click OK. So if you want to then go back and unhide the card for to assign it to another student or another class, then you would come up over here, unhide it, and click OK, and then assign it. Does that make sense? Okay.
Can you repeat that one?
I do have a question. Like, how does it know to not unhide it for the class that you just assigned it to? That's my only concern. Like, if you hide it, like, does it rebuild the deck somehow? Or every time
I don't know. I've
you
never
build an
tried.
assignment, does it change somehow? Or unhiding it or hiding it will affect all classes I have assigned it to?
I believe that if you hide it, see, I've never chosen decks to hide any of the cards. I usually like the students to have as much practice as possible. So I have not tried, I'll be honest with you, I have not tried hiding cards and assigning it to different classes. But I think that once you hide it from one class, it's going to be hidden for all the classes because it doesn't regenerate a new deck, right?
Okay.
So I think, I don't know, it's something that, I mean, right now, like, I don't know if it would allow me to do it, like, to then assign it. Cause I feel like if I hide it, it's gonna be hidden, right? And then if I assign it to a class, it's going to be hidden for that class. But if I go and unhide it again, then it's going to also unhide it for the class that I just assigned it to. Does that make sense? So I think that if you hide it for one class, it's going to hide it for all the classes.
Okay. Can we duplicate a deck? Like, say I do want classes to see different things for whatever reason. Can I just like make a copy?
So let me see. Doesn't allow you to make a copy. So here you can, like, it just says assign, or fast pin, a hyperlink, hide cards. That's if you want to hide specific cards. And then that's it. It doesn't allow you to duplicate a deck on here. Let me see here. Yeah, that's just the membership. Yeah, and this just explains how to do it. And then in the studio, this is where if you would want to build your own decks. I've never tried doing it because it takes a long time to build them. So I have not tried. But it doesn't seem like you can duplicate the deck. Sorry. But that's as far as I have in terms of Boom Learning. It's actually a very easy platform for you to use once you are using it, and just building your library is something nice to do. So that's something that I would recommend, just kind of like just building what you can possibly use for September. So that's about it. Yeah, I haven't tried, Michelle. It's something that we can try. So Michelle said, if you assign the decks to classes in different actions, then the hidden cards from one class should not be hidden from the next class to which it is assigned. I haven't tried it. So, I mean, I guess it's something that we can try whenever you assign it to your students and see if it, changes or not. But as far as that's, if anybody has any other questions, but that's it. That's all you really need to know about Boom Learning. Does anyone have any other questions?
No, I'm just going to probably review a lot of the content that you had shared. And as always, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I mean, I will add the steps that I used to give my students. So like that, it will be in the slides, so you can always go back and check it there. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Do you have a store on here? It seems to be a good idea. So I have not created my own store. You can, if you want to, you can actually create your own Boom Learning cards and decks, and then, sell them to people. I mean, people do it all the time. does take a long time for you to create something, and until you get the hang of stuff. But you can search, the actual find free stuff. Yes, today is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Birthday,
Happy
Sylvia.
birthday. Enjoy your time.
Let's sing her happy birthday. Let's sing her happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy
Happy birthday